Okay, hang on
You
one
just
second.
just need to set up the equipment.
Yeah, I got it all set here. And all right, with another audio edition of Surf City Chronicles here. Very fortunate to have Assemblyman Matthew Harper on the line from Sacramento. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to coming back down to Huntington Beach in a couple hours.
Well, we look forward to having you come back, but it was like we saw you on the media, Matt, a lot the last week or two. It was a busy schedule for you. Talk a little bit about what you've been going through on the John Wayne issue, because it clearly tapped into a larger nerve than I think a lot of people might have expected, and you were fighting the good fight up there, but still ran into some pushback, huh?
Definitely. And so the thing is, as I'm a conservative Republican, and that's definitely a minority here in the California state legislature. In terms of the partisan divide, there's 80 members of the state legislature, and only 28 of them are Republicans. In fact, it's very close to being just about over one-third. And that's significant in terms of, passage of some laws. Tax increases require two-thirds, and some other things require two-thirds. So we're dangerously close to even being close to that one-third mark. And so, there's a lot of things where Democrats, have the advantage over Republicans. But one thing that we typically have is kind of a mutuality in terms of, kind of the ceremonial aspects of the job. When policy issues come up, those are very direct. People have different perspectives. They represent different geographies of the state, and there's typically a decent level of understanding of collegiality between the members, and that also typically extends, to things that are more symbolic, that are ceremonial, that may honor someone who's important from someone's geography within California, or maybe their own political constituency. And so one of the things that I saw last year is the state of Texas, their state legislature adopted a John Wayne Day as a part of resolution. Not a holiday where people have time off. It was just simply in honoring of the man. Well, he never lived in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw that, I said, what doesn't make sense, since he lived decades of his life here in the district that I represent. Of course, in addition to Huntington Beach, I represent Newport Beach, in addition to the other surrounding cities of Newport, like Costa Mesa, Irvine, Laguna Woods, and Laguna Beach. And so, John Wayne Airport is right in the heart of the district that I represent. Also, he used to live right on the harbor in Newport Beach, was a regular fixture at the Balboa Bay Club, in terms of the social scene of the time. In his former boat, the Wild Goose, which was a converted minesweeper, is still rented out. And I think a Hornblower Yacht Club or yacht still rents out the Wild Goose. And so, with all of that background, in addition to John Wayne means so much, to family members and myself, and many people throughout the district and throughout California, in terms of an epitome of American values, and very actually synonymous with America itself, especially internationally. But the values of perseverance and self-reliance and independence and patriotism that he very much instilled. You're talking about a man who, at a time when supporting our troops was not necessarily that popular in the 60s during the Vietnam War. Here's someone who, celebrated our troops. In fact, put together the film The Green Berets. Not only did he star in it, with another famous fellow, George Takei, and others, but he actually directed the film itself very much as a homage to those who fought on behalf of America. And so when I introduced it, I thought that, here's a thing that's, going to be, supported roundly, to each his own. Each of the folks get their own part of this kind of, celebratory nature.
Sure.
Of the legislature's actions that sometimes happen within the margins. Certainly not a part of the main space, if you will, in terms of the legislative day. And so it had unanimously passed through the Rules Committee, But once it got to the floor, there were a couple of members that decided to speak in opposition, and it took a very, very dark turn. And there are two folks who I think would very much represent the extremes in terms of the very left wing of the members of the legislature. And so they engaged in some character assassination, which I thought was unfair, especially to spring up straight on the floor. And they made it very difficult for a lot of the other Democrats who I think would have otherwise been fine with adopting John Wayne Day, but instead by poisoning the well to engage in that kind of character assassination, it ended up actually blocking the resolution, which I think was a real embarrassment for the California legislature for some really far left folks to be able to block an acknowledgement of someone who's very important to a lot of people in Orange County.
Who were the two members?
It was Luis Alejo, who represents the Salinas area, and after that was Lorena Gonzalez, who represents the San Diego area. And as I said, both represent a very, very liberal part of the Democrats in the legislature. Luis Alejo, it was almost like it was a time going back to the college culture wars of the early 1990s, and so of course Luis, who had went to UC Berkeley, and Lorena Gonzalez, who was who went to Stanford and later on became a labor leader. I felt like I was fighting the college students back when I was in college back in the 1990s. Which I thought that people had grown up since then, but apparently not.
Did it seem like a legitimate pushback based on an issue, Matt, or did it seem more like petty politics, like, no, we're not going to give him this one? I mean, in your opinion.
I think it very much was petty politics, and they tried to cast the stain of charging John Wayne as a racist, which I thought was unfair. And I think it had more to do with that he's a celebrated figure among patriotic Americans, and probably one of the most significant in terms of culturally anti-communist figures of the last century. And I think that is really what ended up triggering it, because of course there's a lot of folks that each of them had forwarded resolutions or honors of, who I'm sure would have quotes from their time, which would not be acceptable during today's dialogue. And I think that's what ended up getting picked out. And I think those were the real reasons why people had the opposition, is they just disagreed with his politics.
Well, I was going to say, too, there are very few historic figures, even the most vaunted and celebrated, that you can't find a couple of sentences here and there that are going to offend somebody.
Yeah.
When you go back
we are all sinners.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the cultural mores have changed so much. Language has changed. I mean, seriously, there are very few great people that you can't dig something up on if that's your motive. I mean, I guess that's what it comes down to, is sifting through and looking for that one sort of gotcha quote that they can hang an argument on. But no one's above that, literally. There's not a person, a celebrated figure in popular culture, that isn't above some kind of net like that.
And that's why I closed with the phrase that I thought the orthodoxy of political correctness had prevailed when this had been blocked, because this isn't just this issue. This is a systemic issue, especially on college campuses, but other governance institutions, like the California legislature. Of course, our legislature is an outlier. I would think that if this had come up in at least 2/3 of the legislatures across this country, that it would pass with flying colors and there wouldn't be a single issue. It's just a shame that the state that was his home for so long, wouldn't acknowledge John Wayne.
And I guess it may be a discussion for another conversation, but yeah, the whole idea of safe spaces on college campuses, I mean, It has become sort of laughable how the places that used to be for free thinking and challenging authority have become essentially cribs where, little kids can gather and not have their toys taken away from them. But of course, while that's the latest outrage that's happened in the state legislature, of course, there's so much that's happened over the last year and a half.